after 2 weeks of organic images of Queen Khalifa, golems and sandcastle-like structures, this week, Sarah's going to take us through the work of Swiss-German artist Paul Klee. His highly individual style was influenced by a number of movements in art that include expressionism, cubism, and surrealism. And before we turn things over to Sarah, I want to show you the work of a local artist inspired by Paul Klee. And the local artist's name is Jay Raz, and here is her art. Now we're going to keep you posted regarding an upcoming local art show by Jay Raz.
That's fantastic.
It is.
Yeah, I love it.
Indeed. Definitely inspired by Paul Klee. Now, Sarah, please take over.
Good morning, everyone. Wow, that's a great piece of art. I really like that. Please definitely let us know when that will be exhibited.
Will do.
Let me just share my screen. Perfect. So Paul Klee was a Swiss-born German artist. And as AJ mentioned, you really can't pinpoint one style that he was a part of. He was involved with expressionism, cubism, surrealism, and more. He was a natural draftsman who experimented with and eventually deeply explored color theory, eventually writing about it extensively. And his works reflect—
And Sarah, can you just, we're having a hard time hearing you. Perhaps if you can speak up just a little bit louder, it'd be great.
Yes,
Thanks.
Give me one moment. Let me change.
Let's see, is that better?
Oh, much better. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, right. So I was saying he deeply explored color theory, and he was actually a natural draftsman who, his works kind of reflect his dry humor and sometimes his childlike perspective and his kind of personal moods and beliefs and his musicality. And actually both of his parents were very musically inclined. His father was a music teacher and his mother was a singer. So music was really in his genes. And he actually received an offer to join the Bern Music Association at age 7 because he was so gifted, and that was for the violin. But he never felt a creative connection to music like he did with art. So eventually he moved to Munich and focused on his drawing skills, staying kind of isolated from the modern art movement happening across Europe at the time. That is, until he met artist Wassily Kandinsky and other artists from Der Blaue Reiter, which was the name of a group of modern artists in Germany at the time. So here we can see Klee's interest in drawing. This is, we're going to move chronologically today. And this is obviously, he started out as focusing on his drawing as a draftsman. It's one of his earlier works. And so City of Churches is a study of line and form to create these three-dimensional buildings. And the use of color is almost like a secondary aspect that makes this piece more dynamic and adds to it, but it's really about the different lines of this piece. So painted in an abstract style, Villa R focuses more so on color as the main aspect for this one. The work depicts a white and blue villa standing beside a red road, kind of winding into the mountains. And a full moon is shining overhead. And in the foreground, you can see is a large capital letter R, which appears to be part of the landscape. And the red road forms this diagonal across the painting. And then a row of green shapes, including the green letter R, form a second diagonal with the villa kind of positioned at the intersection. And the significance of the letter R is not entirely revealed, but it's believed that it's to stand for Rosa. And Klee had seen the Villa Rosa in the early 1900s on his travels through Italy. So in 1921, Klee was called to the Bauhaus, which was a modern art school in Germany, to fulfill a role as a lecturer, where he began a period of more instructional works. So the Saint of Inner Light is a lithograph, and 100 versions were created with slight variations in color and composition. And it's said that primitive cultures and childish drawings were inspiration for this piece, and Klee really challenged himself by trying to express the bodily nature of a saint. So completed in 1922, Senecio is really a manifestation of Paul's sense of humor and playfulness. Klee makes use of various shapes of orange, red, yellow to reveal this portrait of an old man. And artistic use of shapes gives the false impression that, you know, one eyebrow is raised. His left eyebrow is represented by a triangle, while the other one is made of a kind of a simple curved line, which is a really clever and playful way to use shape and line at its simplest form to represent this larger image. And as well, this picture is divided into different planes based on color. And the piece intentionally mimics children's artwork by using these simple shapes and very minimal facial details, but at the same time, Klee has created something very, very modern. And this one kind of reminds me of the piece that Jacques and AJ just showed with the face and the different pieces of the face all over. The red balloon was also painted in 1922, and we can think about what was happening in the art scene in the 1920s and 30s in Europe. On a larger scale, and it was cubism that was really being experimented with at the time. So this is oil on canvas, but Klee also used muslin to help develop even brighter colors on the backdrop. This piece shows a red balloon floating in the air with a modern take on a cityscape in the background that it almost resembles artist Pierre Mondrian that we've talked about before. And this piece is at the Guggenheim in New York. The Seafarer is Klee's take on a battle scene from the comic opera, The Seafarer. And with this piece, it's really all about color. The gradient squares of blue that represent the different depths and waves of the sea are kind of what the eye is first drawn to. And then you can see the clash with the red figures that it kind of highlights the cool ocean and then the fiery, passionate battle that's taking place. And even in the dark background, you can see variations of gray and brown in addition to the black. This watercolor was known as the English Miss by students at the Bauhaus, and it has elements of abstract expressionism, which is the art movement, if you remember, that focuses on how the artist feels about what they're painting and the emotional representation versus the literal representation. So the young lady is surrounded by different symbols, and one critic even referred to them as oppressive spirits. But the symbol that stands out the most is the red arrow. And Klee was known to use arrows in his work as kind of a phallic symbol. So the young lady's adventure referred to in the title could be sexual in nature. And this piece is at the Tate Museum in London. So I really like this piece because the first thing you notice about it is that the name is called Mask of Fear, but the image is quite childish and silly. You have the handlebar mustache and the tiny little legs. It's kind of acting as a satirical take on the grim title. And another interesting thing to note about this piece is that it's done on burlap. So it's cloth versus a stiff canvas, which could also speak to the kind of, mask aspect. And the two sets of legs suggest that two figures might be supporting and hiding behind this carnival style mask. And this could be related to Klee's metaphorical statement, the mask represents art and behind it hides man. Heroic Roses was painted towards the end of Klee's life in 1938. And this is really kind of a culmination on his studies of color and form. The main color is kind of this bright green, but with many accents of red, purple, and orange. So he's really using the whole color wheel. And as well, it's obvious that there are three abstract roses in the painting, but it leaves the other shapes and symbols up to interpretation, which many scholars and critics have lamented over, trying to find their own meaning to. And this piece is at an art museum in Dusseldorf, which is where Klee moved to after leaving the Bauhaus. So it's very clear that Klee had a varied career and was never stuck to just one artistic movement. He experimented and grew throughout his career and really will forever be known as a formative modern artist of the 20th century. Thank you.
So, Sarah, that was so real. I think it was surreal. Hey, so you said your favorite piece was The Mask of Fear. I really like the Villa R. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
My favorite is still the piece by J. Raz, I have to say.
Yeah, this is a great piece. This is definitely a nice piece.
I do like the red balloon, though.
Yeah,
Indeed.
Yeah,
indeed.
they're all great pieces. Really,
Incredible artist.
they are. Well, thank you for that, Sarah.
Thank you.